It's a pleasure to have Mr. Robin Singh, who is a known leader in the space of compliance, ethics, regulatory affairs, and anti-corruption matters and investigations. He has worked across various jurisdictions such as Middle East, Singapore, India, and even a high-risk region as Afghanistan, serving Fortune 500 clients and government clients, helping them steer through various regulatory and ethical dilemmas. Not only that, his articles have been published in various journals across the world. He's currently working with the government of Abu Dhabi in their healthcare sector. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
With the growing regulations across the globe, or I should say the absence of them, how important do you see the role of ethics, compliance, and regulatory professions in the Middle East?
Thank you for the question. So basically, regulations have been growing like an algae in a pond. Though they've been increasing, it's not the regulation itself per se that is increasing the importance of this profession, but it is the enforcement of them. So if you look at most of these international regulations, such as Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, Healthcare Abuse and Fraud Act, or the Anti-Corruption Act, all of this were instated long back in 1970s and 1980s. But the enforcement of them have started somewhere about a decade back only. So most of these regulators are now coming strong on healthcare entities and other entities. Like there have been two recent ones which have lately happened. Office of Inspector General have come down heavy on a healthcare institution because they were waiving off copay, so which gave an appearance that there is a possible anti-kickback statute which couldn't be invoked. Similarly, FTC as well, based out of United States, they came down heavy on a medical billing company because they felt that they were using unethical practices. So it's not just that, but the enforcement of it, which is creating the importance of such professionals, basically to ensure that they keep their bottom line intact, as well as making sure their reputation is intact, and they can send happy faces like the patients and clients back home.
Sounds good, sounds good. I understand and I also see the complicated environment which is surrounding us today. So with that, what are the most renowned and important elements of a successful compliance and regulatory affair program in a healthcare setting?
So basically, to look at this question, we'll have to break it up into two folds. One is the substance part of it, and the other is the structural part of it. Substance part of it, mostly across the globe, they follow the same methodology. Know your risk, identify the actions that you need to take beyond them. Once you know your actions, make sure you can train your employees on those actions or policies. Once you've trained them, create a communication channel between the two so that if they have anything that you can report, they do it. And you can use a whistleblowing mechanism to report such concerns, or reporting mechanism as they call it now. Beyond this, you move to a monitoring mechanism, making sure that the culture all across the organization is ethical and well-bound. And finally, you find out the outliers you need to investigate those elements which are creating thought process contrary to the organization. On the structural part of things, they're basic ones, like making sure you have the right tone at the top, making sure that the CEOs or the board of directors can follow the walk or the talk that they're talking about, followed by making sure that if you're doing any sort of enforcement action, so you don't treat an unethical act from a CEO differently, or disciplinary measure for the CEO differently than the person right at the bottom below. That is sort of a thing which will break the compliance, ethics, and regulatory programs. So these are the basic elements that are needed for today's program to be successful.
Absolutely great. I see that this is not an easy mechanism to build. So tailing this thought, it would be good to know, with the fast pace of growing technology in the healthcare domain, how do you see the role of ethics and compliance today?
Well, now, especially in healthcare institutions, healthcare technology is seamlessly integrating. And whenever you integrate a technology, there's going to be nuts and bolts required. Those nuts and bolts are basically your compliance and ethics part of it. Just recently, there was a conference by Google on artificial intelligence where they revoked their contract with Pentagon because this artificial intelligence technology was used for other purposes by Pentagon. And they came out with a special ethics code of conduct that they would not use their technology for anything that would harm mankind. Similarly, in the healthcare institution, though it's growing at fast pace, when you look at the viruses, when you look at these ransomware which lock down your data and make sure that you pay a certain amount to get patient information, all of this come in handy. Unless and until the compliance and ethics technology is at the same level, at the same front, it's going to be difficult to compete with such elements from the society.
I see. Lastly, in the multifaceted environment such as the healthcare or the government, what do you see as the top 3 priority risks in the healthcare sector, keeping the compliance officers awake in the night in the Middle East?
Well, so basically all risks are tailor-made to every organization, but if I have to pick up top 3 of them, I would suggest that one is the risk to patient information and patient data, because with the growing pace of technology, as we spoke of, and the elements that are present, hackers that are present, it is very important that healthcare institutions safeguard those information, because once that is out, a healthcare institution loses its integrity, followed by the conflict of interest. Now, with mostly, as we see in the conference as well, this Congress, there's so many third parties supporting various healthcare institutions, there is an easy chance of conflict of interest. And once conflict is created, it can not only lead to bribe and corruption, but it can, in healthcare institution case, it can lead to deaths. So that'll be my second. And the third one, definitely on the bottom line, which is the revenue leakage. Now, with the elements that are present, which are contrary to an organization's vision and mission, you would always find with people who have vested interest. And that's where the leakage of revenue cycle comes in. And that's where fraud, corruption breeds on. So those would be my top 3 risks that I would see in a healthcare institution across Middle East, in fact.
Well, Robin, could you please tell me how was your experience at the conference so far?
It's been a brilliant experience. I'm glad that you guys could get this call together with all these sharp minds and push the limits across, wherein not only you're giving out awards to people who are rightful owners, but also making sure that you get to impart those knowledge. I mean, I was listening to some of the panel discussion. They were absolutely brilliant, especially on the question that what if the information is on WhatsApp? Then the director of pathology, I believe, he brought about a question that how pathologically diseases can be taken care of with technology point of view. It's been a brilliant experience till now, and I hope it continues with you guys, for sure.
Absolutely. So we will see you around in the upcoming conferences?
Definitely, for sure.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. Hope to see you around.